Selling isn't manipulation, it's amplification. Because when your message is clear, your service speaks louder than any script you could ever create ever could. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of working with nearly 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. And what I'm really here to do today is to help you see, know, and understand clearly who you are and how to be able to say that to the world in a way that makes the impact to be the thing, to do the thing, to be the person that you're meant to be, the change that you're meant to bring into this world, and make the difference in this world that only you can make. I'm so excited for that for you. Selling gets a bad rap. It really does. And anybody that knows me knows that I was a sales manager way back at 19 years old. Spent most of my time in high school actually working different sales jobs. And, I've ran a sales and marketing company literally my whole entire adult life. So obviously, I'm kind of cool with sales. I kind of like it. I'm kind of okay with it. And sometimes I even feel like I'm a defender of it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of quote unquote sales trainers out there that I think they feel guilty about selling. And so they'll couch sales in, selling is sharing, selling, and all those kind of things. I love how my good friend Errol Abramson used to always say it. And the guy's a multi-billionaire, started 47 companies with no failures, 47 and 0. 47 wins, sold every single one of them out for more than $1 million, a few of them for more than $1 billion, and was running 2 multi-billion dollar companies at the end of his life. And Errol used to always say, nothing happens until a sale is made. I remember a few years back, I was in a little bit of a debate. It was supposed to be a friendly conversation, but the person got all hostile about my answer. And I tried to keep it discussion wise, but I may have gotten into a little bit of a flame war with him. I'm just being honest with you. But the question that the person had originally posed that I answered to is, what's more important, sales or marketing? Now, technically speaking, if you get a marketing degree, sales is a subcategory in marketing language of overall general marketing. Okay, technically speaking, from a educational intellectual concept. But when we look at it from a business concept, marketing is about telling people who you are, what's great about you, why they want your product. Marketing is telling. Okay. Sales is actually getting them to make a decision, yes or no. Okay. I love the old phrase, no is a complete sentence. And it really is. And for a good salesperson, and I really hope for you today that you'll embrace the concept of, I really actually like it when people tell me no. When they can strongly, clearly, and just definitively say no. I'm not saying that it's not like, dang, I wish I would have gotten that sale. But, it's much easier to deal with. You can handle those kind of things when the person tells you no, you need to move on. Okay. Now, yeah, there's all of the more scammy sales techniques about, no is just a yes waiting to happen, and that's not saying that the first time somebody tells you no, that you shouldn't, see if there are ways that or reasons why that's a no, that it could become a yes. But in the end, no can be the whole conversation. And the person identifying themselves as not being a good fit for you is really actually one of the best things you can find. I used to, with my sales teams, I used to have a challenge for them to see who could get the most no's for the day. At one point, I was working as an independent contractor, consultant, sales manager, office manager, blah, blah, blah. I had a lot of titles. usually simultaneously, because I was also at one point both running the telemarketing and the service departments for Lilly. Um, and I know that when I left there, it pretty well basically took about 4 or 5 people to replace all the things that I was doing on a regular basis for the company. But I used to always challenge them, who can get the most no's today? And that was, we had two different groups of people. One was running appointments. One was running, actually knocking on doors and seeing if they could get appointments set up right then for that day. In either perspective, that gamification, as we would call it these days, of just trying to get people to tell you no. Now, the interesting thing about it is that if you ask enough people, okay, now this is not good sales, but if you were to stand outside of, say, a grocery store, okay, now let's assume that you're not a cute little kindergartner, and you're not selling cookies, okay, because that's just cheating. Right? You spend all that time in the store and now you're a little worn out. And in most cases, when you leave the store, even if you didn't go in hungry, you're kind of coming out thinking about food and stuff like that. And then the little cutie asks you, would you want to buy some cookies? And what are you going to do? Break her heart and go, no. I did love that the last time I saw a Girl Scout was actually when I was still living back in California in Fallbrook. And, they would be outside of the grocery store. And I loved that we were right next to Camp Pendleton, because it gave me the capability to be able to actually just buy a box, or I usually bought, I forget if it was 4 or 5 for $20. I can't remember. I think the boxes individually are $5 each, but it might have been that you could get 5 for $20. I don't remember. But I would buy them specifically for the servicemen, and then they would, take a whole great big giant, case or crate or whatever of cookies over to the servicemen on Camp Pendleton. And I felt a lot better about that, and, saved me from the evil cookies. Not saying that I was really great about saving myself from the evil cookies back in those days. I still have some weight to lose, but I had a whole lot more to lose then. I was totally the guy that you wanted to ask if they wanted to buy cookies, right? See, all of these things that I'm telling you are nuances of selling, okay? Now, we can't duplicate the power of cuteness unless you just happen to be a 5-year-old, okay? But if you were to stand outside of that grocery store and just ask boldly, confidently, and happily, so you're not some big grouch, and, you're not dressed like a homeless person. Glad that I'm wearing something that doesn't make me look like a homeless person today. And that kind of thing. If you just ask literally everybody that came out, would you like to buy a? And cookies would be easier, of course, obviously. But, let's say you were trying to pick something. I'm just going to use a widget, okay? Especially because who really knows what a widget really is, right? It's a fictional product, blah, 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 that they came up with in business school. Okay. But if you ask every single solitary person that came out of that grocery store, would you like to buy a widget? Would you like to buy a widget? Eventually, somebody's going to say, well, what's a widget? Okay. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of the conversation. 99% of the people are going to say no, 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 no. Okay. And if you can be in that place where you're just happily, you're just looking for your person, and there may be 100 people that come out and all of them say no, and some of them are even grumpy with you. And you give yourself extra bonus points when the person gets grumpy with you for just having asked. See, you got to make it a game. All right. Your talk, your sharing who you are and knowing it clearly is the key to success in that. Now, just a minute ago, I used, would you like to buy a widget? See, here's the problem with if you stood outside of the grocery store and you said, and this is what a lot of us are doing, is we're basically saying to people, would you like to buy a widget? And then when somebody says, well, what's a widget? when we get that 1 out of 100 people, or 20 out of 100, or 2 out of 10, or whatever statistical reality you live in. And I could quote you sales statistics and marketing statistics all week long, and you'd be bored to death. But when you get that person that asks you what's a widget, first of all, that's what's known as a buying signal. But second of all, can you clearly articulate it? And see, because I like that I used the word widget, because widget is an unreal thing. It's a conceptual kind of thing. All right. It's kind of like, then any of you that are older like I am, if you remember Spacely Sprockets. Spacely Sprockets put money in your pockets. Well, what exactly are Spacely Sprockets? I mean, a sprocket is like, the little turny piece in the gear, and the two gears come together, I mean, I know what a sprocket is. I don't know that Spacely Sprockets actually did that, but Spacely Sprockets puts money in your pockets. See, good marketing, okay? You need to have Spacely Sprockets because you want to have money in your pockets, right? I don't even know why I need Spacely Sprockets, but I like to have money in my pockets. Same thing's true with that same scenario we're looking at outside of the grocery store. If you don't have that clarity, first of all, of who you are, second of all, of what you're talking about, and then third of all, who's it for, and most importantly, what's in it for them? What will it benefit for them? And you could be talking about something as simple as a vacuum cleaner, since I talked to you just a few minutes ago about working as a consultant with the Kirby company. And you can articulate to the person, it's like, you just bought this brand new carpet. Here's what this $99 vacuum cleaner is going to do to your carpet. And this is what you're going to end up with. And you replaced that old carpet because of that. And then here is how suction and vacuuming and getting the dirt. And this is what it would look like, and how you could actually truly get the dirt out of your carpet. And then you can talk about health benefits and those kind of things, and you can tell that I've taught classes on that. So, I can go into the benefits versus the features. The feature is, you turn it on and it sucks up the dirt out of your carpet. That's a feature. Who cares? The benefit is that you get all those contaminants out of your environment, that your carpet lasts longer, that you live in a happier, cleaner, less smelly environment. Would you like to live in a less smelly environment? And some people are going to be like, no, I kind of actually like having my environment be smelly. Okay, well, then I can't help you. I mean, I know salespeople who would, blah, 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 but, I'm just talking about reality for your message. So you need to know what you're passionate about, but then you need to know, why is that important? And then frame the words around it so that you are expressing to the person that you're meant to serve. Yes, your 2 ears need to hear your mouth say it, because you need to believe it. Absolutely. You are absolutely always, in anything you do, you need to be your first customer. But you want to go beyond that, because first of all, when you pay yourself, you're just really rotating your money around, and no new money is coming in. Okay. And there's no real way to pay your bills, because if you pay all your bills and there's nothing in the bank account, then you can't buy the next thing from yourself. I know that was deep, wasn't it? But anyway, you know what I'm saying? So you need to understand, who is that person? What is their need? What are they desperately in need of? Why? What's it for? What's it about? And how can you really, truly help them? And when we approach it, like I know you do, from a place of wanting to make an impact and a change and really, truly help that person, when we find that clarity, then we can really, truly make the difference. Then we're not chasing sales. We're chasing impact. We're just simply telling people how we can help their life be better. And that's important. Clarity allows you to serve. Now, I know I was dissing earlier about, the sales trainers that are using, selling is serving, okay. And now I'm going to break that own rule of my own. Selling is a good thing. All right. The Every place that you go to buy something has what's known as a point of sale system. The most basic of that would be a vending machine. It's this giant Coke machine, or, pretzels and whatever, cigarettes, whatever kind of vending machine. It's ultimately a point of sale system. It has it designed in such a way, so that it makes you want to drink the Coke, or, what have you. And then you put your money in it, you buy something. See, because everybody likes to buy stuff. Nobody likes to be sold anything. And so when you have your messaging, your marketing in line, then you can sell things to people, because ultimately you're just allowing people to buy them. I was talking earlier, and I know you think I got hijacked. I kind of did, about the conversation, which is more important, sales or marketing. And, the guy was adamant, that was all angry with me, that, pish posh, marketing, marketing, marketing. And I was like, and here's the point that I made. And you can agree with it, disagree with it, doesn't matter. Again, going back to the phrase, nothing happens until a sale begins. When you're in a restaurant, okay, and most waiters and waitresses do not actually consider themselves salespeople, although good waiters and waitresses, when you go to a high-end restaurant, we actually teach them how to be able to sell, okay? And those sales skills can, ratchet all the way down until, you get to, say, you call Domino's Pizza, and the good person on the phone is going to say, what can we get you to drink with that? Would you maybe like some breadsticks to go with that too? You suggestively sell extra things to them. And a lot of times, especially when you're talking about food at dinner time, a lot of times if you say something, hey, would you like a 6-pack of hot wings to go with that? The person's hungry. That's why they called you. And so those are really actually, but if you don't ask them, they're probably not even thinking, when I say Domino's Pizza, do you think hot wings? Maybe you do these days, but back when they first came out, okay. But back to my example, when you sit down at a restaurant and you decide you want to have a brown colored cola type drink, okay, which you don't tell the waiter or waitress, I would like the brown colored cola style of drink. What do we usually say? We say we want a Coke. Why? Because Coca-Cola has owned that industry to the point where Coke, like Kleenex, is the name for an entire industry of cola sodas. Okay? Just like Kleenex, though that's actually a brand name, is what we normally call facial tissues. These things that we got here on our desk, facial tissues. All right? We just call them Kleenexes. But here's the thing. All right? When the waiter or waitress says, we have Pepsi, they're going to say something along the lines of, we have Pepsi, is that okay? 9 times out of 10, the person just says, yeah, that's fine. Sometimes people really don't like Pepsi and they'll, get something else. But if the waiter or waitress just said, sorry, we don't have Coke, and just stopped, no selling, no understanding the words in the messaging, then that person would just have nothing to drink. The same thing's true when we talk about Kleenex. You go into the facial tissue section of the store. If somebody brings home Puffs or, Western Family generic facial tissues, when you're getting ready to sneeze, you probably are still going to say, can you hand me a Kleenex? Even though the box clearly says some other name on it. See, that's marketing. But Kleenex company with all of their great, grandiose marketing, Coca-Cola company with them actually being what Pepsi's riding the coattails on when the person says, would you, is Pepsi okay? They don't make a dime off of that. And you're not making the money that you're making because you're not clear. Clarity is what's going to get you to that point. So what you need is the clarity. And what I've created for you is a mindset to money roadmap. Mindset to money mission. We're going to spend an hour together. We're going to spend that time, and you're going to come away clearly with a clear idea of here's who I am. This is what I do. Okay, we're going to spend an hour and put together a way for you to see this is the message, and this is, this is who I'm saying it to, and what I'm asking from them. Clarity is powerful. If you're interested in that, drop the word map. I'd love to work with you on that. I want to really, truly help you get that clarity. Okay? I appreciate you so much. Remember, selling isn't just service spoken. Let me rephrase that. Let me bring this over here where I can read it because I wrote this down really good. Selling isn't just service spoken clearly. The clearer you service, the louder you impact. Did you catch that? Selling isn't just screaming that your service at the top of your voice. It's about giving great service clearly to people so they absolutely know exactly who you are and what they need. Okay? So if you're interested in that, feel free to drop the word map. Come join us in visibilityamplifier.com. We would love to have you there. And then we'll get together again tomorrow, like we do every day. I love getting together with you every day. And tomorrow we'll talk about the bridge between purpose and prosperity. It's meant for you, and we want you to get there. And we're going to work on that with you. And until we're together again next time, I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and you have a great week.